Hello, hello. Hey, Kimmy. Hey, Melanie. Hey, Julie. That's Mary Catherine. Then you'll see her on YouTube. Hey, Karen. Hey, Chesney. Hello, Anna. Hey, boss man. Isn't she lovely? Hello, lovely. Hey, Mary. Hey, Nikki. Hey, Melissa. Welcome in. The chords are pretty cool, aren't they, Sis Brinson? Suppression Squad. Welcome in. Welcome, 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 welcome. I'll have to listen to that one, Sis Brinson. I cannot say it. Suppression Squad. Mary, thank you for sharing the live. Zoe-Ann, thank you for the heartbeat. Make sure to send your daily heartbeat. It does help. Hey, Marine's daughter. Hey, Jules. Oh, I love that poem. I love that. That's great. Welcome in. Hey, Cece. love medieval times. Oh, release this breath. Okay. Suppression Squad. Hello, that kitty Pop Tart. Hey, X. That's Mary Catherine's. I adopted her. Isn't she cute? Hello, Dream ASMR. Thank you for the follow, Dream ASMR. Do you love scary stories? Isn't she adorable, Mickey? And she's a redhead. No, Suppression Squad, it is not animal. Looks good over YouTube too. Can everybody see the will of fate? I did! Suppression Squad. James Swartz. Welcome in, darling. Thank you for sharing the live. I know. Exactly, Brian. Why, thank you, Sam. I've been waiting for the will of fate to choose the cryptid because I've got a good one. Maybe this is the night. Thank you for the FYP. Oh, Angie, I'm sorry. James, it does my heart good to see you. We miss you. Oh. Meet Mary Catherine. Maybe so, X. I think so. She called to me. Thank you, Suppression. Dogman, Dogman Story, Mary Catherine James. natural. She just looks like that. She was born that way. Baby, she was born that way. Let's start sharing the live. 5 friends, 10 friends, 15. We got a 400K goal to hit tonight. So let's start tapping those screens. Hey Tracy. Hey Pamela. Let's see those stickers. There are some creepy stickers in there. Let's start posting those. Hey Mia. Mia. Mary Catherine in the house. Oh, she'll have one. Mary will be on there. Hello over at YouTube. How is everyone doing tonight? Hey Kimmy. Yeah, I'll have to come up with a better setup for her in YouTube so everyone can see her. Hello, Gracie. Welcome in. Hello, long whiskers. 2 minutes. Lights will go back out at story time. Oh, I love it. childhood. Run. That would be a great code word. Hey, Leslie Marie. Ooh. Why did you move? You're creepy. Stay. Stay. Right there. She wants to be the center of attention, I think. Welcome in, Night Dwellers. Welcome in. Hey, Jester. Hey, Dan. I think she did. Mary Catherine, behave. Welcome in, Night Dwellers, to the Night Room. I am the Night Queen, and tonight, the will of fate will decide the stories I tell tonight. Are you ready for a spin? First, let me just say that this is a warm, safe, loving, and welcoming community. There is no judgment here. I want you to come in for the next couple of hours-ish and enjoy story time. Long Whiskers said that he never got to hear this as a child. So that is what I am trying to bring back. The joy of bedtime stories. Tonight, it will be an easy choice because every story I have painstakingly worked to make as creepy, terrifying, and unforgettable as possible. With that being said, are we ready for the wheel to spin? Let me see it in the comments. Everybody good? I think she just pushed the wheel. And here we go. Green. It landed on green. But that's just going to be a practice stand. Now let's really do it. Purple. It landed on purple. And purple is... Hello, Gothic Prince. And purple is horror movie. And tonight I am going to be telling you a horror movie that sent chills down my spine when I watched it. The Others. Are you ready for horror story? I know. I have been waiting to tell this one for months, but the other will of fate would never land on it. Oh, very good. Very, very good. All right, let's see those stickers. Let's see those likes. And let's go into story time, shall we? Lower your lights. Lock your doors. Light a candle for ambiance. Pull your curtains nice and tight. Wrap yourself in your warmest blanket to avoid the chills that are about to crawl up your spine. And let's begin. Are you ready, Mary Catherine? Tonight's tale is one of isolation, shadow, and revelation. Welcome to the horror story, The Others, where silence is sacred and the truth is buried deeper than the dead. Enter the night realm and prepare to fear the night. There is a house hidden in the fog, wrapped in ivy, shut off from the world. Inside it is silence, curtains, locked doors, and rules. Never open the drapes. Never run in the halls. And never, ever question the presence in the room with you, even if you cannot see it. Grace lives in that house, a mother, a protector, a woman on the brink. Her husband has gone to war, and her children, they are allergic to the light. But the truth, it's darker than any room she could ever lock. This is the story of the house on the edge of the midst, where grief breathes through walls, and the dead don't know that they're dead. Chapter 1. The new servants arrive. It was was 1945. The war had ended, but not all wounds had closed. Grace, a devout and brittle mother, lived alone with her 2 children, Anne and Nicholas, in an old Victorian mansion on Jersey Island. Her husband Charles had vanished in the war, presumed dead, but Grace waited, hollow and tense. She believed with all of her heart that Charles was all right and that he was going to come home. And then one morning, the doorbell rang. 3 strangers stood at her doorstep. A housekeeper named Miss Mills, a new gardener named Mr. Tuttle, and a kind-hearted maid named Lydia. They claimed to have worked at the house a long time ago. They needed no pay, only to return. Grace shook her head, not exactly sure what they were talking about, but she accepted. She didn't have the money to pay them anyway. The fog rolled in behind them as they entered the house and shut the door. Chapter 2. Rules of the House. Grace explained the rules. She was a lovely woman with short red hair to her chin, luminous blue eyes, but the saddest expression on her face. Statuesque and slender, she wore a black dress to the floor. She simply motioned with one finger and said, "Follow me." They entered double doors, and it was so dark that they could barely see. And then when she shut the door behind them, they were cast into complete and total darkness. Now you must understand, curtains stay closed. You cannot open the curtains for nothing. I don't care if it's sunny or raining. You cannot open the curtains. My children, Anna and Nicholas, they have a disease. They cannot tolerate the sunlight. Do you understand? Yes, of course. Poor little darlings, Lydia said. Anna and Nicholas whispered behind a wall to each other about the others. They had never seen anyone there before. But children always tell stories, don't they? Grace noticed something odd. The servants never questioned the rules. They did exactly as she had asked. No curtains were open, all doors were closed, and they glided through the rooms without a sound. Miss Mills simply smiled and said, "This house, I remember this house well. It remembers things." "When exactly did you reside here, Miss Mills?" Grace asked. "Oh, long time ago I did." "Has it changed much?" No, it hasn't. She is a lovely old house. I am happy to be back with her. With her? You make it almost sound as if she's a friend. In a way she is, I suppose. Don't you like her, Grace? I suppose it's all right. I would like it a lot better if my husband was here with us. Your husband? Yes, he went off to war, and I haven't seen him in months. Years, actually. Grace chalked Miss Mills up as being just a former housekeeper to another family that had lived there. But then she began to notice things. Doors began opening on their own. Footsteps echoed down halls where no one had walked. And sometimes the piano in the grand ballroom would play by itself. Question, night dwellers. Have you ever heard a sound in your home that you couldn't explain? Chapter 3. Grace was laying down on her bed, bone weary and tired. It had been a long night because her daughter Anna had came into her room and told her something strange. What is it, darling? What is it? I've seen a boy. A boy? Yes, his name is Victor. And he told me to get out of his house, that this is his house. Grace snapped, forbidding any more ghost stories. But then Nicholas said the same thing too. Mother, the boy, he tells us to leave. But this is our house. Yes, Nicholas, it is. It's our house, and you need to stop these foolish imaginings. There is no boy living in our home. There is no boy living in our home. But then one morning, Grace went into the children's playroom. And Anne's drawings were always placed on the wall. Always. She was quite a talented artist. Pictures of flowers and water and ducks and horses. But the drawings were completely changed. In fact, they began to disappear one by one. Not only the drawings, but they were replaced with picture drawings of cars and trucks and airplanes. And then, as she was walking down the steps one afternoon, she noticed that the family portraits that had hung on the wall since her and the children and Charles had moved there were gone. And in its place was sketches of unfamiliar faces. Old men. A woman in black. A crying boy. Grace was furious. Who was removing her things? It had to be the servants. There was no other explanation for it. But then she thought about it and she blamed it all on stress and imagination. One night they were sitting down at the kitchen table and were preparing to have supper. And she heard it. The keys of a piano playing softly. She walked at a fast pace to the grand ballroom. She closed it and she locked it. Who was playing the piano? Moments later, before she could even get back to the kitchen, bang! It rang out from downstairs, but this time the piano playing was louder, not soft, not melodic. She rushed back down, and it was open again. And behind her, a whisper of a woman. You're not supposed to be here. Leave! Leave now! Leave my house! Chapter 4. The Return. He returned. Charles, her husband, stood in the fog, gaunt and dazed. He said little. His dark eyes were hollow. His words were slow. He embraced his children like they were strangers. Oh, how I missed you. Look at you, Anne. Look how big you've gotten. Nicholas, look at you. Grace clung to hope. He was home. She always knew that he was alive out there somewhere, and that her love would keep him going. With him home now, it could all be normal again. But at night, as she lay in the bed, she would watch him and follow him. He would just wander up and down the hall, up and down the stairs. He would speak to unseen figures. And finally, he whispered to Grace one night, I have to go back. This place, it's not right. Charles, what do you mean? This is our home. This is our family. Take us with you. I can't. Why not? You're just going to leave us here. You're just going to abandon us here. Charles, please. Please don't leave us again. By morning, he was gone again. And she was alone once more. Just her and the children. A few days later, Grace found a strange book in the servants' quarters that had never been there before. It was old and tattered, filled with photos not of the living, but of the dead. Victorian death portraits, families posed with lifeless bodies, eyes painted on closed lids. And on the final page was a photo of Miss Mills, Mr. Tuttle, and Lydia. Grace trembled. These were the very same servants in her home. But that wouldn't make sense. How could they be dead? Grace trembled. She was walking out of the room and she heard again, "Leave here! You are not welcome here, and I order you to go! Go now!" She hurriedly ran up the second flight of stairs to the third floor where the servants were. She wanted to confront them for what she had found, but they were gone. The fog outside thickened, and something moved between the trees. Chapter 6. At first, Anne and Nicholas just called the boy. But now they spoke freely of Victor. One night, as Grace was tucking them into bed, Anne looked up at her. "Mummy, where did Daddy go?" "He just was called back to where he was." "Is he going to come back for us?" "He will, darling. We don't feel like we belong here anymore." "Why?" Victor, the boy that always tells us to leave. He says we have to leave because they were here first." Grace's world began to fracture more and more by the day. She began hearing voices. An old woman praying in a room that she'd locked. A man's deep hum in the stairwell. She grabbed a shotgun and checked every room. No one at all. And then, a couple nights later, the front door opened, and light spilled in as it wasn't quite fully dark yet. "Shut the door! Shut the door! They cannot be with light! My children have a disease! Can you hear me? Shut the door!" But it was as if her cries fell on deaf ears. Five people walked in the house. She saw a table move, a circular table in the foyer. Chairs were placed around it. A candle was lit. And then there was a voice that sounded almost like a drone. Dull, monotone. "Are you here with us?" Grace whispered, "Yes." "Can you tell us why you are not at rest?" "It's just been hard for me raising my children alone, and my husband being gone. Why haven't you crossed over? There is rest in the light." "I haven't been able to rest for years." And then she heard another voice beside hers. "Why won't they leave? Ask them, why won't they leave?" "Why won't you leave this house?" Because it's my house. It's my house. It's my house. It's mine and my children's house. It's mine. Why did you die in this house? What? Grace shook her head. Ask them why they won't leave. Ask them why they won't leave. I told you! Grace screamed out. We won't leave because this is our house. This is our house. And then another man spoke up. They don't leave because they believe that they're alive. Grace shook her head vehemently. You are the ones that need to leave. It is you who need to leave, not us. This is our house. Grace was furious. Furious, shaking so badly. The chandelier above the table began to swing back and forth. She burst into the room where the piano was. Candles flickered. Dust swirled. And then she went back to the foyer where the remaining people were, and this time she saw them. A family sat in a circle around the table, hands joined, and the medium's voice quivered. Oh, poor darlings. They don't know that they're dead. She unalived them, and now they haunt you. What was she talking about? What was she talking about? Grace screamed, but they didn't hear her. Because the living, the people at the table, the people in this seance were speaking about Grace. Grace, are you here? The medium asked. Grace turned. Yes. Yes, I'm here. Grace. Why are you not at rest? Why are you not at peace? Her face turned white. And suddenly she had a vision. She remembered the night, the rain, the thunder, the lightning lighting up the room, the night of rage, the night that her mind cracked, the pillow that she carried from her bed down the hall. The pillow that she put over their faces. Her own scream in the dark. And then nothing. Grace. It is time for you and your little ones to move into the light. Move into the light, Grace tore through the house. The curtains ripped from the windows. Sunlight poured in. The children didn't scream. Anne and Nicholas looked up at their mother. They weren't burning. You can stand in the light. You can stand in the light. They could stand in the light, night dwellers, because they weren't alive. They hadn't been for some time. She dropped to her knees, and it all came back to her. The desperation, the sadness of Charles leaving and going off to war. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. And from the shadows, Miss Mills stepped forward. It's all right, my dear. Sometimes the dead hold on, and they don't want to let go. But now you know. Now you know. Grace, the medium's voice spoke louder. Come with me into the light. Bring your children with you. And Nicholas, follow your mother into the light. Grace refused. This was her house. She was not crossing over anywhere, and neither were her children. Another year passed. Now, the curtains were no longer drawn. They walked freely about the house and the grounds. A new family arrived. Boxes, curtains, laughter. The living had returned, but Grace, Anne, and Nicholas remained, watching, waiting. The others held seances too. Yes, others. Not just one family, but many. They would only stay for a short period of time. Grace saw to that. They felt cold spots and whispers. They called the house haunted. Grace called it home. In death, she finally saw clearly, and the house kept its secret, one breath at a time. And now you understand, night dwellers. It was never about ghost. It was about denial, grief, and a truth too heavy for the living to bear. But make no mistake, some houses cling to their dead. And some dead never want to leave. They wait behind mirrors, in whispers, in dreams. And when your story ends, will you be watching the others? And that is The Others, my dark children. I hope you enjoyed that reading. We are going to take an intermission. When we come back, the wheel will spin yet again. And what will it land on? We will just have to see. We're not going to read the second story until we hit 200K on that board. Let's do it. Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. So glad you liked it. I'll be right back. Oh, thank you, Angie. This is one of my favorite gowns. It most definitely is. Oh yeah, the blues and the golds and all those different colors. She is. I have. I actually, until I can get in my new room, that is so much bigger. She is going to be Pocono Hideaway. How are you, darling? She is on my tripod stand. I was like, I've got to get set up on something. Yeah, I do see her moving. Yeah, I call this one like my rainbow, and if she jumped at us, I would die. I hear that. That's funny. Hello, Brooke. Hey, Turtle Woman. That is one of my favorite movies, and I had someone who actually requested it back months ago. Hey, Love Jones. You're so colorful. I love all your hearts and your cactus and your fish. I love them all. Hey, Shauna. If I am missing anyone, please let me know. I'm just this is like my time to come in and see everyone and say hi while we're working on getting up to 200K. Hello, Eric. Hello, Patricia. Hey, Roby. Good to have you in here, Judy, still tonight. Hey, Lulu. It was freaky. It was a real nail biter. I had no idea at the end of the movie that they were the ones that were dead. They were the ones that were haunted, you know? Thank you, Cece. Did I do a story about my sister? No, not yet, but I am. Hey, Debs. It was a Friday. It was a trying Friday. 444 subs in YouTube. When I checked it today, we were like at 438. So thank you all so much. This is where we really want to grow. Is on YouTube. We want to get monetized, and we want to go on there. But I have to have 1,000 followers by the end of the year, and I have to have 4,000 viewing hours. So every time that you go in and you watch a story, you watch a live or what have you, that adds to those viewing hours. So if we could just pull together as a community and make that happen, it would be absolutely terrific. But it has to happen within this physical year. And so it is, the time is ticking, the clock is ticking. If you haven't joined YouTube yet, it is completely free. And you will have have the access to the library of lives that we do every night as the Night Dwellers. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you. You don't even have to go to YouTube though, y'all. You can just go to my bio, click on the link on my page here, and just subscribe right there. And it's completely free. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, thank you. I've always loved the name Brooke. I almost named Little Night Queen Brooke. Yes, it definitely was. We're at 180K. I love the name Brooke. I do. I'm tapping 2 here, y'all. The Night Queen's tapping. I'm tapping with 3 fingers. I don't know if I can do 4. Can I? No. Seems like 3 is about my limit. Oh, Malin Rose. That is beautiful. Do you really, Gracie? Oh, wow. So I'm getting little hearty hearts, but I'm also getting like smiley faces. Do y'all get those when you are tapping? Let's keep sharing the live, sharing it out to your TikTok friends, share it out to Instagram, share it out to Facebook, YouTube. Yes, I'm seeing a lot of different emojis. I'm seeing a crown, I'm seeing a heart, I'm seeing a smiley face. Hello, Becky. Whew. Oh, we're getting close. We're at 191. Come on, let's go. Tap, 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 tap. Yep, I see that too, Rhonda. Hitting 450 tonight would just be amazing. I agree with you, Palm. Yeah, a lot of sunglasses. I didn't know this. This is kind of cool. I don't know what that one is. Okay, Nikki. We are good, Becky. How are you? Hey, Jim Rockin'. We'll be spinning the wheel here in a moment as soon as we hit 200K. Push, 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 push. True crime. What do y'all hope that the Wheel of Fate will land on next? Hello, crazy Cajun mama. How are you? Thank you for the heartbeat. Thank you, thank you. We did it. We hit over 2K. 200K. Here we go. Time to spin the wheel again. Last one was horror movie. If it lands on horror movie again, I spin again. Oh, all right, so this is a little bit different. So it landed on the white with the yellow strip. What that means is Mary Catherine is getting ready to come into play. When it lands here, I have to pick an audience member and add them into my story. So that's going to happen. Now I'm going to spin again and see what the story is going to be. Is everyone ready? Landed on yellow, 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 yellow. Someone in this live is getting ready to be part of my story tonight. Oh, heck yes. I have been waiting for this one. Oh my God, I have been waiting for this one. The next story is Urban Legend. And we are not going to be doing Urban Legend in the US tonight, my friends. Urban Legend in Scotland. Have you ever heard of the Scottish Bothy? No? You're about to. Now what I'm going to do and how I'm going to choose who the character will be in the story I am just going to scroll up from the very top with my eyes closed, and whoever name that my finger lands on will become a character in the story tonight of the Scottish Bothy. Are you ready? All right. Good job, Mary Catherine. And here we go. All right, here we go. And the character is Amy. Amy with the blue butterfly. All right, Amy. All right, here we go. You're ready? Are you sure? Night Dwellers. This next story is one that I have been wanting to tell for weeks. Heck, probably months. When I first heard it, it was on a podcast, and people were talking about the Scottish Bothy. And I was like, what is that? And then I heard about it, and it is absolutely terrifying. The Scottish Bothy, where darkness dwells. I am the Night Queen. You have entered the Night Realm, and tonight I bring you a tale that will chill your very soul. A story that proves some places are so steeped in malevolence that they infect all who dare to enter. This is not mere folklore, but documented terror from the mist-shrouded Scottish Highlands, where ancient evil still walks the earth. Chapter 1. The Cursed Ground. What lurks in the places where civilization fears to tread? Picture, if you will, a desolate stretch of the Scottish Highlands where the massacre of Glencoe on February the 13th, 1692, stained the snow crimson with betrayal and death. Here, nestled in the shadow of towering peaks and ancient sorrows, stands Lulabit Lodge, a name that transcends to bend of destruction is its translation. In the old Gaelic tongue. This former Victorian deer-stalking lodge sits like a festering wound upon the landscape, more than 10 miles from Kinlochleven, and miles in any direction from civilization. It was built upon ground that the Highland clans knew to avoid, grounds where the old ones whispered that the veil between worlds grew thin. The lodge became a bothy in the 1960s, and what the bothy is a free shelter for climbers and high hill walkers. You can just come in and stay the night, and then leave the next morning. But those who built it as a haven never imagined that they were creating a trap. A place where darkness could feast upon the souls of the unwary. First person, Margaret McLeod. The very air around that place feels wrong, she said. An elderly woman from Fort William in her 80s, whose grandfather had worked these lands. My grandfather told stories of lights that danced where no light should be, and sounds that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The locals knew. They always knew. But the outsiders, the climbers who came seeking adventure, they never listened to the warnings. Chapter 2, The Harbinger of Doom. When did the first souls fall prey to the lodge's hungry darkness? A 1-year-old child had been living at 39 Gibson Street at the time of the 1851 census. This child would have been 40 years of age in 1890. At the same time, that 40-year-old John McAlpine took his own life at the lonely Bothy. The connection between that Glasgow tenement and this Highland hellhole would prove to be no mere coincidence. John McAlpine had been a strong man, a stalker who knew these hills like the back of his weathered hands. But something drove him. As he wandered through the highlands and the mist was thick and the fog shrouded, he saw a cabin nestled in the trees. He was cold. The highlands are very cold. He walked in the house. There was firewood, a box of matches, some canned goods with a can opener. He saw a bed over in the corner. He could rest here. He had completely lost his bearings. He didn't know where he was. He was sleeping that night, and he began to hear wind. He began to hear soft screaming. He began to hear rain. And he began to hear whispering. He looked into the darkness. John. Hello? He hollered out, but nothing responded back. He got up out of the bed, walked across the floor to the fireplace and stoked the fire. It began to burn brighter. John. John. Do it. He thought for sure that his mind was playing tricks on him. John. Do it. There was peace. Do it. He turned and looked behind him. Who's there? John. He heard a laugh. Look. Over in the corner. John looked over in the corner and he saw a rope. A long rope. He picked it up. Throw it over the rafter. John took the rope and threw it over the rafter. And the next thing he knew, his fingers were fashioning a noose. The whole time he was thinking, why am I making a noose? Two weeks later, another traveler arrived at the Scottish Bothy, and what he found in 1890 chilled him to his soul. John McAlpine. His body was found swinging from the rafters, his face twisted in an expression of such terror that men who cut him down refused to speak of what they'd seen. Ian McBride was John's best friend, and when he found out what had happened to John McAlpine, he told the authorities. He spoke to me the night before. He was McAlpine's assistant. In a statement given to the local constabulary, he said that he was excited about going. John was never anyone thinking about unaliving himself. I don't understand. He had a wife, children. He would have never did that. The second lodger that was there, he said that he felt things too, that the lodge was watching him. Said he could hear breathing, and that something called to him in the night. I thought it was just all the liquor that I had drank. But no, I heard it. I heard it very clearly. I heard it very loud. He got away. Not everybody gets away. The official record listed it as unaliving, that John McAlpine had did that, but the unofficial whispers spoke of something far more sinister. Something that had been feeding on human terror long before John McAlpine ever set foot in that accursed place. The lodge fell into disuse for a period of time after McAlpine's death. For decades, it stood empty, slowly decaying. But decay, night dwellers, does not diminish evil. It only concentrates it. Chapter 3. What drew two innocent souls into the maw of ancient evil? February 1973, the year that disco was born. But in the Scottish Highlands, older rhythms still pulsed beneath the snow. 18-year-old Paul, already an experienced climber, set off with his friend and fellow climber Jack from their South Glasgow climbing club. In my tale tonight, we will let them call them Phil McNeil and Jimmy Dunn. Two young men whose lives would be forever scarred by what awaited them. Phil was a charismatic lad, quick with the joke and fearless on the mountain face. Jimmy, quieter but equally skilled, trusted Phil's judgment implicitly. They had conquered peaks across Scotland, laughing at the old superstitions that still clung to the Highland consciousness. We'll show those old wives' tales what real fear looks like, Phil had boasted to Jimmy as they planned their winter expedition. How those words would come back to him. They took the train to Bollock and then hitched a lift north to Clinlochleven near Fort William, from where they set out on foot about 10 miles to Labellet Lodge. The snow lay thick that winter, muffling sound and creating an otherworldly silence that pressed against their eardrums. They had stopped in at a local tavern the night before the trip. They had a lovely waitress by the name of Amy, who served them all that night. When she overheard their conversation about the Scottish Bothy and the name, she got down on eye level with him. It's none of my business. None of my business at all. But I'm telling you, you shouldn't go there. And what is your name? Amy. Amy. Why should we not go there? Have you not heard the legends? Have you not heard the stories? What stories? If you go in that lodge, you're not coming out. We'll take our chances, Amy. Amy looked at them. Suit yourself, then. It was nice meeting you, 'cause you won't be returning. And she walked away. As they trudged through the deepening drifts, completely ignoring Amy's warnings, Jimmy noticed something that made his blood run cold. Phil, he whispered, pointing to the snow ahead. Look at those tracks. Strange impressions marked the pristine white surface, not quite human, not quite animal. They seemed to lead directly toward the lodge, then vanish as if whatever had made them had simply disappeared. It's just deer, Jimmy, Phil laughed, but his voice carried an edge of uncertainty. You don't believe what that tavern witch said, do you? Come on, let's get to shelter before dark. Neither young man could have known they were following the same path that countless others had taken, and from which so few had ever truly returned. They should have listened to the tavern witch, Amy. Chapter 4. The Welcoming Darkness. What evil preparations had been made for their arrival? When they arrived at the Bothy, the door was locked. Looking through windows, the men could see dishes in the sink, but no one inside. It really doesn't look that bad, Jimmy. Come on. But this was no ordinary abandonment, night dwellers. The scene that greeted them through those grinding panes was far from too deliberate, far too prepared. The floor had been swept. The dishes in the sink were arranged in a perfect circle on the counter. Candles had been lit and left to burn down to stubs, the wax pooling in strange patterns on the wooden table. A Christmas tree stood in the corner, but its decorations were wrong, twisted and blackened as if touched by some unholy flame. I don't know, Phil. Maybe there was something to what that girl said. Looks like someone left in a hurry, Jimmy observed, pressing his face to the glass. But Phil noticed something that made his skin crawl. A message stretched out on the wall, scratched into the frost on the inside of the window, too. Do not sleep in this house. Thinking that the residents may have left to obtain provisions and would later return, the pair left their rucksacks in an outbuilding and decided to attempt to climb among the snow and ice on the surrounding hillsides. They returned to the isolated lodge, the Scottish Bothy, at 9 p.m. But as they climbed earlier that day, strange things began to happen. Their compasses spun wildly. Jimmy's watch stopped at exactly 3:33 p.m. Most disturbing of all, they could hear what sounded like bagpipe music drifting down from the high peaks above. But when they looked, no piper could be seen. It's probably just the wind, Phil said, but his voice had lost its earlier bravado. Maybe what that Amy girl said at the tavern had something to it. The mountains seemed to be watching them, and with each passing hour, the sense of being observed grew stronger. As the winter sun began its early descent behind the peaks, casting long shadows across the snow, they made their way back to the Bothy. The temperature had dropped precipitously, but the cold they felt was not entirely natural. It was pitch dark. When they arrived at the Bothy, they noticed a candle burning, lighting up the inside of the cabin with an eerie yellow glow. Jimmy looked at Phil. Is that a candle lit? Yeah. Maybe somebody is staying here tonight. There's not a lot of room. Yeah, but that's what the Bothy is. It's supposed to be for people that don't have a place to stay. Come on, we'll make it work. Chapter 5. Entering the Throat of Hell. How does evil welcome its chosen victims? They lightly tapped on the door of the Bothy, and the door opened slightly ajar. They knew for a fact that they had shut that door earlier that day. As Phil pushed it open, the hinges shrieked like a soul in torment. They walked inside, and on the small table where they ate earlier, there was one tallow candle, burning wildly, the flame flickering. And if even possible, even with the fire going in the fireplace once it was started, it was still colder inside than it was outside. Jimmy looked at Phil. It is so freaking cold in here. I'm afraid we're gonna freeze to death. So what do you suggest? Huh? Maybe stay in the outbuilding. Phil looked at Jimmy like he was a fool. No, we're better to stay in here. The fire will eventually warm the place up. They began to look around the interior of the cabin more. And they saw things that really began to stand out to them. It was a study in abandonment and decay. There was a wall that they had never really paid attention to on the north side of the cabin. Jimmy grabbed the tallow candle in its holder and walked over to the wall. And there were decades of use by climbers that had left their mark, names carved into the wooden walls. They also found another corner where sleeping bags moldered in corners, the detritus of countless overnight stays. Phil told Jimmy, probably the owners of the lodge are the ones that bring the sleeping bags. Yeah, but how do you explain all this stuff about stay out of the cabin, stay out of here, you're being watched? What does that mean, Phil? But underneath the familiar squalor of a mountain bothy lay something far more older and more menacing. It was in the middle of the night, around 2 a.m. The fire in the fireplace had completely burned out. Jimmy pulled out his flashlight and swept the beam across the main room. The light itself seemed to be absorbed by the shadows, creating pockets of impenetrable darkness that shifted and moved as if alive. Phil rose up off the floor. He had grabbed 3 of the sleeping bags and made him a nice pallet. What are you doing, Jimmy? Dude, it's so cold in here. The fire went out. Well, then relight it. So Jimmy tried. He relit it. He then noticed that the dishes that had been on the counter earlier that day were no longer in a circle, but in a straight line. He thought nothing of it. Phil woke the next time, earlier that morning. His diary was found in his bag, and his last entry said this: Jimmy woke up this morning at 2 a.m. The fire had extinguished itself. He rebuilt it, and it was beginning to get the cabin warm again. I fell asleep. I just woke up. The fire's out again. There's no way that fire is continuing to go out by itself. We should have listened to her warnings. We should have listened. I hear something even now. Footsteps. I asked Jimmy if he hears the whispers. He just looks at the wall. A few weeks later, a woman arrived in the town, questioning where her two friends were, Jimmy and Phil. They were going to this place. It's called a Bothy. Yeah, we know it well, the tavern owner said at the bar. We know it well. And then a beautiful woman with red hair down to her shoulders and emerald green eyes stepped around the counter. I talked to them, she said. And who are you? My name's Amy. I told them not to go. I warned them. Can you tell me how to get there? Can someone take me? Can I hire a guide? You don't want to go there. You won't find them. Alive, that is. Sure enough, as she kept begging someone to go look, finally 2 police officers traveled out to the Bothy. And there they found Jimmy. Frozen in terror. His body backed up against the wall, crouched in the corner like he had seen something that literally scared the life out of him. And swinging from the rafters, Phil, just like John, decades before. Their friend, Clara, began to explore more on the Bothy, and she found evidence of the lodge's dark history. Newspaper clippings yellowed with age told of John McAlpin's unaliving. Scratched into the walls of the cabin were messages left by previous visitors. Some put, "This house is evil. The whispers never stop. Something lives in the walls." But most chilling of all that Clara found was a logbook. Its pages filled with entries from climbers over the years. It wasn't in the Bothy. It was in the outbuilding. The earlier entries were normal weather reports, climbing conditions, expressions of gratitude for the shelter. But as the years progressed, the tone changed. These were some of the entries. Couldn't sleep. Kept hearing footsteps upstairs. March 1968. Decided to take my chances in the outbuilding. July 1970. Something threw our gear around in the night. We're leaving at first light. I pray to God that we make it. October the 1972. If you're reading this, don't stay here. It's a trap. It's not a place for you to come and rest. It's a place for you to come and die. Whatever is in this place is not human. Do not go in the Bothy. Clara exchanged nervous glances with her partner. What had Phil and Jimmy seen in that Bothy? Clara was young. Her partner was young. They were rational people of the modern age. But something had got Phil and Jimmy. They would not have been driven away by the superstitious ramblings of overwrought climbers. Something was there. Chapter 6. When does the hunter reveal itself to its prey? Bill McTavish had heard rumors and legends of the Scottish Bothy since he was a boy. He decided that he was going to go with a friend and stay there the night. He wanted to see exactly what he would experience there. He didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in spirits haunting. When they arrived at the Bothy, they settled into the main room for the night, arranging their sleeping bags near the old fireplace. Bill managed to coax a small fire from the damp wood scattered about, casting dancing shadows on the walls. For a moment, the warmth and light made the place seem welcoming. Bill spoke up. "Not so bad after all, hey boy?" He had his son Robert with him, who had just turned 16. They started unpacking their simple meal of tinned food and tea, but as they spoke, the fire suddenly guttered and died. Robert jumped because the Bothy was completely plunged into total darkness. Bill fumbled for his torch, but when the beam cut through the darkness, they saw that their sleeping bags had been moved. And now they were at opposite ends of the room, no longer side by side. Their rucksacks that were carefully placed by the door sat in the center of the room, opened, and the contents were scattered everywhere. "What the hell?" Bill muttered. Robert sidled up next to his dad. "Dad, do you hear that?" "Hear what, son?" "Screaming. Sounds like a woman. Screaming." They both heard it. Screaming, wind, rain, and the sound of a bagpipe. "We're gonna chalk it up, son, to mice doing that." "Mice, Dad? Mice?" They both knew better. Robert's voice shook with uncertainty. That's when they heard it again. Short, bumping sounds. A single boop and a double badoof. It sounded like there were two climbers up on top of the roof, throwing down their rucksacks and boots. The sound came from directly above them. Bill decided he was going to go up the narrow stairs to the top floor. When he got to the top, he saw a room, completely empty, with just a metal frame bed. No mattress, no blankets. It was empty. There was one window, and it was broken. "Well, that explains the cold air. Come on, son. Let's go downstairs and light that fire again. I'm gonna try to find some plastic, maybe out in the outbuilding, that we can put over that window up there." They walked outside, and the snow came. Heavy snow, blizzard-like conditions. It was so heavy that they couldn't even see the outbuilding. Dad, it wasn't snowing. Well, it sure as heck is now, son. Come on, let's go back to the cabin. Bill started searching every drawer, everything he could find to try to put something over the window upstairs, because if that cold air kept coming down the staircase, they weren't going to make it through the night. He began to think, I know why people are frozen when they find them here with fear on their face, because they froze to death. Was that what it was, Bill? Was it really? He took one of the sleeping bags, a hammer that he found in a bottom cabinet, and 4 nails, 20 penny nails. He went upstairs and nailed them over the window. Son, he hollered down the stairs, look and see if you can find a couple more nails to nail on the side. Okay, Dad. They had the fire going again. It was roaring and crackling. Dad? Bill didn't answer. Hey, Dad, I found one. The sound stopped immediately. No more hammering. The silence that followed was so complete it seemed to press around Robert. He started walking toward the steps, chill filling his soul. Dad? And then, just as he was putting his first foot on the step, the fire went out. He was plunged once again into total darkness. He was terrified. He pulled his flashlight out of the back pocket of his jeans and went up the steps quickly. And there, he found the window still completely bare. Nothing hanging over it. But this time the glass was completely missing. Dad? He thought maybe his father had somehow leaned out too far and fell. But when he looked down on the ground, Bill was nowhere to be found. Robert was terrified. And then he heard footsteps. 1 step. 2 steps. 3. The footsteps stopped directly above where he was standing, and they sounded like they were coming from on top of the roof. Robert walked over to the window and leaned out just a smidge. He hollered up, Dad? Dad, is that you? No response. Dad, I'm scared. Dad! A week later, another hiker. They knew that the Scottish Bothy was there, went there to find shelter. And he found Robert, frozen, just outside the Bothy. People began to question, where had Bill disappeared to? One year later, a group of hikers, who shall remain nameless, went to the Scottish Bothy. They had been hiking all day. It was around 7 o'clock p.m. and they saw the Bothy in the shadows. It had just begun to snow. They could hear a wolf howl on the wind. There it is. That's it, right there. Apparently it's all stocked. All we have to do is just go in, stay the night, get our bearings about us, and then we'll leave the next morning. That night, The three hikers found the cabin to be quite charming. They opened up some tin cans, had some beans, and then they were playing a card game by the fire. One of them heard footsteps upstairs, loud stomping. Sounded like boots. One of the other guys spoke up. Hey, do you hear that? What? Bagpipes? It sounds like bagpipes. One of the biggest guys there went to the staircase and hollered up. Hey, whoever's up there, we know you're there. Come down and talk to us. This is a free space. You can stay here just like we are. We can share it. Come on down. His words were answered by silence, and then without warning, chaos erupted. There was only one survivor that returned back to town. He trekked 10 miles back to town, and the story that he told was unbelievable. But to the locals, they knew that it was true. He wandered in to the local hotel there, almost frozen to death, stammering, shivering. Where are you from, son? I just came from the Bothy. Oh, the clerk behind the desk said, I remember you. Where's your other two blokes? They're gone. Sorry, what'd you say? They're gone. Gone. As in, abandoned you? No. Gone. They're gone. They disappeared. The story that he told the doctor that night that came in to check on him. He said that when his friend told the person to come downstairs that ice tools were being hurled around the room in the dark. He said that the fire completely extinguished and the light went out, and they were all in impenetrable darkness, feeling sharp objects flying around the room, hitting them. And then carefully their arranged gear began flying through the air as if hurled by invisible hands with the sounds of bagpipes. The man who was telling the story said that his sleeping bag was yanked from beneath him with such force that he was thrown against the wall and hit a nail in his back. The doctor checked it, and sure enough, there was a hole in his back the size of a nail head. He said that they had tried to light a candle as quickly as they could, but when you tried to light it, that it immediately would go out, and that every time that he even struck a match to try to let light in, the flame would dance wildly before being snuffed out by an unfelt wind. He said that the temperature in the room plummeted, that their breath came out in great white puffs. One of the boys had found a flashlight and started shining it around. He said that frost began forming on the windows, despite the fact that it had been above freezing when they entered this place. What happened to them? The doctor asked. I told him that we needed to get out of here, that we had to get out. We all tried to get out the door, but it slammed shut with tremendous force. I was the only one that was able to get out. What happened to the other two? The door was shut. I could hear them screaming. Oh God, I could hear them screaming. The impact was so violent. The whole cabin shook. The The doctor had heard stories of the Bothy. What happened next? This voice, it came from everywhere and nowhere. A whisper that seemed to come from the very walls itself. We could hear stomping upstairs. And what did you hear? I went and looked in the window. My two friends were pinned against the wall by something that I could not see. And the voice said, "You should not have come here." The words were spoken in a Highland accent so thick, he said, that it was almost incomprehensible. But the malice behind them was unmistakable. And the bagpipes were so loud. The man that managed to escape said he tried the door handle as he heard his friend screaming, but it wouldn't budge. They were trapped with whatever evil had made this place its domain, and outside the wind began to howl like the voices of the damned. What ancient secrets does the darkness finally reveal in this body, this place of supposed rest? There were two men in 1990 that had heard all the stories about the Scottish Bothy and decided to investigate. One of the men said, "I didn't know what to expect when we arrived at the Scottish Bothy, but it wasn't what we found. It was this smaller cabin, 2-story. The place was in very good condition, considering that everyone had said that, when they were there, that things were thrown around and that there was lots of destruction. I mean, there was no plaster off the walls. It was a good, solid wood floor, no rubbish, no debris anywhere." It had been years since anyone had stayed in the Bothy. With their ice axes, the two men managed to force the door open and stumbled in. And what they found there seemed fine to them. The stairs did creak ominously under their weight, and with each step, they sensed a little bit of foreboding, but nothing that seemed terrifying. But they did notice that the temperature in the cabin began to drop. When they reached the upper floor, where apparently so many people had been reported missing, the room that had the metal iron bed was still there, perfectly preserved, as if trapped in time. The metal frame bed was not only present, but it was not rusted at all. There was a mattress on it then. Bed sheets were rumpled, and the impression of a human form was clearly visible in the mattress. One of the men said, "Well, someone's been here." But it was the walls that they saw downstairs that made them gasp in horror. Scratched into the plaster in dozens of different hands were messages spanning decades. "He watches from the walls, 1943. A piper plays at midnight, 1956. John McAlpine is not alone. He did not take his life. He took his life, 1961. They're coming through the walls, 1969. And newest of all, scratched so recently that wood shavings still litter the floor. Bill May you rest in peace. The piper made you pay the price. Welcome home. One of the men caught something else that they had never seen before. It was hidden in a compartment behind the bed that was pressed up against the wall. Inside were photographs pinned, black and white images of climbers and hikers stretching back decades. And there among the faces of strangers were photographs that contained images behind these climbers, these hikers. Pictures of big, tall men with long beards, wearing kilts. And there was one in particular that was holding the bagpipe. As they looked at these pictures, they began to hear the sound of breathing, slow, deliberate, and decidedly inhuman. And beneath that, barely audible, was the sound of bagpipes playing a funeral dirge. The entity that haunted Lubold Lodge was no longer content to remain hidden. It was revealing itself, and the revelation was far more terrifying than either of these men could have imagined. Can mortal souls escape when ancient evil has marked them as its own? Now petrified, these two men quickly packed up their things and exited Lubold in terror via the living room window. The front door wouldn't open. It seemed as if the sky was growing darker by the second. We've got to get out of here. How? The door's jammed. It won't even open. And then the fire appeared in the fireplace, roaring, its flames reaching high. What the hell? Now petrified, they quickly tried to move through the living room window. One of them managed to climb halfway through, and the window fell right in the middle of it. His friend pulled him back in. Their escape was not to be so simple. They threw their gear through the broken window upstairs and decided if they had to, that is the way that they would leave. They would jump. They would take their chance on it. The breathing in the walls grew louder and more aggressive. The very foundations of the cabin seemed to shake with malevolent fury. The first man told his friend, "You jump first. I'll be right behind you." So he tried. He tried to climb out, but he was a little too big for the window. His friend started pushing him from behind, and when he did, the man fell out the window, and then much to his horror, he disappeared. He was nowhere to be found. Not on the ground below, not buried in the snow, literally vanished into thin air. The window suddenly slammed shut, the glass somehow reforming itself into an unbroken pane. "Let me out!" he screamed, clawing at the glass. Through the window he could see, and there was no sign of his friend. He began to spin in circles as if invisible hands seemed to pull at his clothing. The bagpipe just grew louder and louder and louder until he grabbed his ears to try to stop it. The door to the room flew open, and a figure emerged from the darkness. Tall, gaunt, dressed in the rotting remains of Highland dress. Its face was that of John McAlpine, but decades of death had not been kind to his features. His eyes were black holes in skull-like visage, and when he opened his mouth, the sound that emerged was the howling of highland winds mixed with autumn human agony. "Stay," the apparition commanded, reaching toward the man. His fingers seemed impossibly long. "Stay and join the eternal watch." The man threw himself toward the door with desperate strength. He tried his best, but the figure kept pushing him back. "Eternal guard. Eternal with us." He then moved toward the window and pounded on it, and the glass shattered inward, slicing his hands and his face. He managed to jump out the window. He wasn't sure where he was going to land, but he hit the ground, and he hit it hard. He stood up and began stumbling through the drifts, not daring to look back. 3 days later, he was found, frostbitten on his toes and his fingers. They took him to Kinlochleven, where they shone their torches. The doctor tried to ask him what had happened. He said he didn't want to talk about it. They asked him where his friend was. He honestly answered, "I don't know." Does evil ever truly let go of what it is claimed? This man, who has chosen to remain anonymous, said that he's never been the same since the Bothy. He began to be increasingly troubled at the thought of going anywhere on his own. And he always has the strange sensation that he's never actually truly alone. The horror did not end with his escape from Lulbid Lodge. If anything, his flight had only served to anger the malevolent force that dwelled within those cursed walls. He returned to his flat in Gibson Street in Glasgow, where he lived with another fellow hiker named Bill. Bill wanted to go to the Bothy, and he told him, "You can go if you wish, but I will not be going with you." Before the frightening events at Lulbid Bothy, he had taken little heed of ghost stories. He didn't think they were real. In fact, he was unaware of anything existing like that. But now, sensitized to the supernatural by his ordeal in the Highlands, he's begun to notice things that he previously ignored. For 6 months after the events at the Bothy, he would not even sleep with his light off. In fact, every light in the flat had to be on. He would wake in the night to find a shadow standing in the middle of his room, holding a bagpipe, wearing a tunic, and looking at him. It would whisper, "Come join the eternal guard. Come join us." What scared the man so bad was it was the voice of his friend, who had disappeared disappeared that night. The sounds of bagpipes would drift through the walls at approximately 3:33 a.m. Most terrifying of all, he began to see more figures and a voice urging him to come back and be the eternal guard. Whatever this presence is that is at Scottish Bothy followed him, and he knew with growing certainty that he will never truly escape the lodge's influence. The ancient evil of Scottish Bothy has marked many people as its own, and across the years, across the miles, it continues to watch and wait and whisper their names in the Highland wind. For some horrors, night dwellers are patient, and some hungers are eternal. And so, my precious night dwellers, we come to the end of our tale of the Scottish Bothy. But remember this, Lullabill Lodge still stands in the Scottish Highlands. Though the cottage is now completely abandoned and in ruins, over the years the house has fallen into a state of disrepair. At one point, graffiti seemed to confirm the haunting, with phrases like, "Do not sleep in this house. This house is haunted, and this house is evil," carved into the actual logs of the cabin. The Bothy continues to create stories of unexplained activities. Hikers have recounted stories of unexplained footsteps and groans, old-fashioned music playing as they wander beside it through the hills. A bagpipe, loud, playing a funeral dirge. The evil that dwells there has not diminished with time. If anything, it has only grown stronger, feeding on the fear of each new visitor, even visitors who do not rest in the Bothy. In Highland mist where shadows creep, where ancient evils never sleep, I am the queen who rules the night, the source of all your primal fright. Through Bothy walls and Glasgow stone, I whispered to you all alone. My stories crawl beneath your skin, and let the real terror begin. You think you're safe in bed so warm, but I command each phantom form. The ghosts that dance in Lubalt's halls answer when the Night Queen calls. So fear me well, my faithful king, for I have watched you all along. Through every nightmare, every scream, I weave the threads of terror's dream. My stories burrow deep where they cannot flee. And in the darkest corridors of your nightmare, you belong to me. You do.